want to just kick this off. I owe you an apology. I can't believe I did this, but I gave you the wrong term for one of the arguments for the existence of God. So far, I've been giving you 3 arguments for the existence of God. And the first one has to do with why is there something rather than nothing? And I called that the ontological argument, which in a sense makes sense because ontos means being, and so it's existence or being, and that's what the argument is. Why is there something rather than nothing? But I should have remembered, that that is actually called the cosmological argument. And so the 3 arguments that I'm giving you are the cosmological argument, and then last week we looked at the teleological argument, which is the argument from design. And then today we're going to look at the anthropological argument, which is the argument from the existence of humanity. And, I have no excuse for not remembering that because Cindy's dad was Dr. Walter Martin, who I'm sure some of you have heard of. He wrote the book, The Kingdom of the Cults, and he was the founder of the Christian Research Institute, where I've worked for the last 34 years. And I sat in his Christian Evidences class 34 years ago, and he laid all this stuff out for me. This is where I first heard these concepts. The cosmological argument, the teleological argument, and the anthropological argument. And so, and I've taught this many, many times. So, I don't know why I would forget it, except I am getting older. Maybe I have early onset senility. It seems like this has happened to me a lot recently, but I can't remember. So anyway, but there is an ontological argument. Since I mentioned it, I should also address that. I'm not going to be giving that to you, mainly because we're looking at these 3 arguments for the existence of God in the context of 3 problems for the worldview of materialism or atheism. Because in the larger context of what we're doing here, this class is looking at worldviews. And as I've explained many times, but for the benefit of those that are here for the first time and to refresh your memory, I will just quickly summarize that this class is looking at what your options are. It's structured as a search for truth. And so we're searching for if there is a purpose and meaning in life. And we're wide open. Our original criteria is that we're not specifying any one particular belief, but we're going to evaluate beliefs. The only way that you can evaluate worldviews, you can't evaluate them scientifically because they go beyond, they're metaphysical, they go beyond the physical testable data. So the only way that you really can, as a starting point, ultimately you evaluate them by the Bible, but you have to get there first, and your starting point is simply logic. Are they consistent? Are they internally consistent, or do they contradict themselves? Are they externally consistent? Do they fit the world, the universe, nature, as we find it? And do they fit humanity as we find human nature? Can people live consistently according to these beliefs? And if any inconsistency comes up in the evaluation of these worldviews, then you have a good reason to say, okay, this worldview is crossed out. This worldview is not worthy of my belief. It would be unwise for me to base my life on this worldview. And in approaching it by worldviews rather than individual philosophies and religions, any philosophy or religion that fits under the canopy of that worldview gets ruled out along with the worldview. So you learn how to deal with things according to the big questions, the big issues, and then you don't have to sift through thousands and thousands of religions looking for the truth. And so what we've identified is that there are 6 worldviews that commend themselves to 21st century human beings as plausible, as possibly true. We've already looked at polytheism, the belief that there are many gods, and we found that it is both internally and externally inconsistent. Now we're looking at the worldview of naturalism, which is the worldview that nature is all there is. There is no supernatural realm. The universe is eternal, and it is ultimate reality. And within that worldview of naturalism, there's 2 options that are polar extreme opposites. The first one is materialism, that everything is material, and then the second one is pantheism, that everything is spirit or God or mind or consciousness. So we've been working our way through the worldview of materialism, which is synonymous with atheism, the belief in no spiritual realm whatsoever, no God, that everything is ultimately material. And so far we've seen that it has problems with how did the universe get here in the first place? Because both the second law of thermodynamics, I remember Walter Martin teaching this in that Christian Evidences class so many years ago about the second law of thermodynamics. That's where I first heard the term heat death, that the universe is heading toward heat death or a loss of usable energy. So that's a reason why it can't be eternal. And then another reason is the Big Bang Theory itself, that is the prevailing and most supported interpretation of how the universe began, also shows us that the universe is temporal. And when it's properly understood, we realize that that means time, space, matter, energy. Everything began at that point. The Big Bang did not occur in a pre-existing spatial material world. So therefore, there was nothing before there was something. And so you either have something coming from nothing, which I remember Walter Martin saying, that's not possible, or you have a source outside of the realm of the material, God, who is responsible for it. Then last week, we looked at the evidence for design. And you'll have to, if you missed last week, you'll have to go back and watch. We have it on video or audio. I think it's just on video right now. You can watch the class. And we're running 1 week behind, so what's up is usually 2 weeks ago. But you can pick up on the classes that you miss if you just are diligent to keep monitoring for the one that you miss when it's available. We're looking into finding another website where we can put all the videos and audio up at one time, and you can review the whole class. But at least you can, if you miss a week, you can go back 2 weeks later and get the one that you missed. So with that, though, with the intelligent design, just in a nutshell, here's what I did last week. First of all, I argued that the evidence for design is the one, whereas from the Bible, we assume the burden of proof, to prove that the Bible is a revelation of God. We appeal to miracles, prophecy, the quality of the teaching, and many different things, the textual integrity, that it's reliable, to show that the Bible really is trustworthy and is a revelation from God. But I'm arguing that when it comes to the design issue, the burden of proof is on the atheist. Because I gave you several examples last week. The design in the universe is everywhere. It's the evident design in the universe is everywhere. So the burden of proof is on the atheist. Because as William Dembski has argued in his book, The Design Inference, whenever we encounter evidence of design anywhere else in existence, we infer an intelligence was behind that, and that happens in archaeology, it happens in criminal science, it happens on every level. So when we encounter the kind of design that we find in nature, the natural inference is intelligence. And I said that the only real argument that the atheists have against that intelligent design is their belief in chance mutation working in conjunction with natural selection, that nature will select out that which is not fit to survive, and that there are chance mutations that's not directed, it's not planned, it just sort of happens. But some of those mutations, changes in an organism that are then passed down to descendants, some of them work to the favor of that organism to survive when there's a change in the environment, and the other ones die off. And so through this incrementally slow, infinitesimal, but going on for ages and billions of years process, you end up with such change that it gives you everything that you see, all the multiple, incredibly diverse forms of life that we find on this planet. Now that, at the face of it, that sounds fantastic. Why would you believe that instead of just believing that it was designed by a creator? But people do, because they're looking for a natural explanation for everything. All right, so I didn't even though I could have tackled that, could have argued that